The AM show. Now, Ghana no longer eligible to receive foreign assistance from the United States under the Millennium Challenge Compact amid debt disputes. A look at the international politics and the diplomatic role, plus the impact on Ghana's development agenda. And joining me in studio is Dr. Nanaya Omreku.
Hi, precious people of Ghana. It's your Nigerian God pleasure bringing you political news in our channel, Ghanatube. In lines of what we've been bringing you all your way, every happenings in Ghana, from the president, the chief justice, and everything trending that you ought to know. Our channel is always committed to bring them your way. Please switch.
National Relations expert, Doc, thank you for making it into the studio this morning. So for many people or for viewers watching today, let us understand really, or how can you explain in very plain terms what it means for Ghana not to be receiving under the MCC?
Right. Good morning to you and good morning to your viewers. Ghana is not being in the good books of U.S. in this Donald Trump second administration. And I wouldn't want to say it's just peculiar to Ghana. Ghana is not an outlier, because we see a Trump administration that is really resetting and recalibrating the U.S.'s foreign policy and selling it out there. And so the U.S. that we used to consider it as a charitable state, you know, is no longer playing that ball again, because the president is seeking to doing things differently. And so if you look at the things that very close allies to the U.S. have all been slapped with these kind of tariffs or fines one way or the other. Canada is taking its own share, Japan, even the European Union. What is happening in the U.S. now, in particular reference to Ghana, is not anything so peculiar. You would recall that the US aid that gives Ghana an amount to the tune of $160 million has also been taken off, the table. Ghana used to enjoy what we call AGOA, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which allowed Ghana and some other African countries to send goods to the US, with no tariffs or with a very, least amount of tariffs. With this 10% and then 15% slap of tariff from Ghana, it means that we are no longer enjoying that kind of, economic privilege. Now, the Millennium Challenge Compact. So in US, we have what we call presidential initiative development programs. So every president that comes has his own initiative program. So It was under President Clinton that AGOA came into being. Under President Bush, we had what we call the Millennium Challenge Compact, and then what we call PEPFAR, Presidential Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. Now, with the coming of President Trump, he initiated what we call building better under utilization of resources. What Trump is doing is seeking to recalibrate U.S.'s foreign policy from aid to trade.
Okay.
And so anything that is serving as a choke on U.S.'s coffers, Trump is seeking to release that and then return those monies into developing U.S. And so U.S. aid, for instance, was considered as something that is putting a stranglehold on U.S.'s, budgetary expenditure. And so taking those monies and investing it in the United States. The idea with the Millennium Challenge Compact, which was the implementation started in 2006 when President Kufuor was the president, and we saw a number of initiative or development projects take place under the MCCs in terms of infrastructure, in terms of energy, in terms of transportation, in terms of health. These are monies that go into these sections. The second chunk of it was supposed to be disbursed between 2016 to 2022. And the current one that we're expecting is what the Trump administration is saying, that Ghana is going to be taken off that list. And a substantial amount of money.
Right.
It runs into $400 million of dollars. The idea is that, according to what we are learning, the Trump administration believes that Ghana is defaulting on some debt or loans that we owe American businesses in the country and some bilateral financial arrangements. And so if we are going through debt structure and we are making some interest on the revenues that we are generating, then they are better off diverting those MCCs that they give to us into other areas. And so because of these things, because of these debts that are owing American businesses, and because of these financial arrangement between us and US that we are not obligating, they are truncating these MCCs to Ghana. And so there are a lot of, these are huge amounts of money, considering that US aid is no longer coming, and considering that this is also taken off the table, it's really a big deal for the country. So, I mean, this is just a brief...
It's good that you have given a bit more, some plain explanation to it. Now, under the US law, especially 7012, does it hinge on this aid under the Millennium Challenge Compact? Does it hinge on some conditions, like the debt restructuring, or every president comes and then they impute their own conditions on it?
So, it's a president's special initiative, right? It is not something approved by Congress.
Okay.
It is usually, and that is why it is very easy for President Trump to not to follow through with it. There's an executive order, and that is it. Except that it has been part of U.S. soft power. So every state or every president that comes into the Oval Office try as much as possible to modify it, but keep the course running. But we are seeing a president that has a different policy or foreign policy orientation altogether. It's all about making America great again. And so he is saying that this time around, I'm not going to dish out resources to countries like other presidents, used to do. I'd rather invest these monies back into the country, into US. And there are a lot of people that are saying that what is happening to Ghana now, and I beg to differ, is because of the diplomatic public outburst between our foreign minister and then the U.S. Republican Senate, Jim Ross,
yes.
Concerning how Ghana is supposed to pay its debt and the banter. I would have wished that this was done quietly, behind doors. Because this is the kind of administration you don't want to be engaging publicly on that level. You must understand that Trump never forgives. He can go down to the very, to the wire. So I think that is just, on the side. I think
you don't think that could be a major impact?
Well, like I'm saying, I wish things were done differently, and I think we've learned our lesson. Going forward, quiet diplomacy, because at the end of the day, you need something from them. Extent that we wouldn't need any help from any major power, but we are not pursuing an isolationist policy. We are not living as an island. At some point in time, we need somebody's help, and especially this is the US. I've always said that the United States coughs and the world catches cold. So I would have wished that things were done differently, between us and them. But I also think that going forward, you must understand that there are political and economic risk. In fact, by this time, Ghana should have learned a lot of lessons. Because it appears every 2 to 3 years, something unexpected happens to our economy because of the global international system or geopolitics. It was COVID, and we saw how COVID was devastating to Ghana's economy. And then we move on to COVID, it became the Israel-Iran war. In fact, before that was the Russo-Ukraine war. And each of them have had major consequences on our politics and our economics. And now Trump came to power, we saw US aid, we saw the tariffs is implemented, we saw the visa arrangement, and now we are seeing this MCC compact that is happening.
So Doug, what do you say to people who say that this is just a procedural break, where if we then restructure our debts properly, you can get back onto it? But I'm also learning from you that it is how the president feels at a particular time. How do I balance this two? Which one should I run with?
That's an interesting question. But there is something about Trump that everybody has realized, and people are gathering around him. And I've said it here before that Trump usually wants an apple, but he shakes down the whole apple farm so that when he gets you, he winds you down to the very apple that you want. Trump is a transactional pragmatist. If you know him, he's a deal breaker.
What does that mean?
What it means, transactional pragmatist means that he wants something, he wants you to give him something for something. He always wants to make deal. And that means that he is coming with something he needs. If you're able to meet him halfway and give him something, if you bring something to the table, he gives you a chair. And so if he's talking about debt restructuring, and that is what, once again, that is what the foreign minister of Ghana, Honorable Kujota Blackwell, was in the state to do. Because he was there with the deputy director of the foreign ministry. He was there to the then acting U.S. ambassador, Ghana ambassador to U.S. as a new administration,
right,
to look at debt, to look at the financial agreement between us and them, issues concerning regional security, issues concerning this visa arrangement. So it was all in order for him to do that as a new government. And then when he had gone to meet the U.S. Undersecretary for Political Affairs, Alison Hooker, in line with some of these debts, arrangements, the U.S. Republican to Senate, the Financial Committee Relations, the chairperson in the Senate, who was a Republican, wrote those untoward words, tweeted those untoward words, and I think that infuriated, that got under the skin of Honorable Kutata Blaka, and rightly so, he fired on behalf of Ghana as a sovereign state. But it came back to what I was saying, that there's a lot of nuances concerning diplomacy. Sometimes these public diplomacy don't really yield. It is doing things quietly, but you showing working for it. Because the Trump administration is not really one that you want. Look, South Africa.
Right.
Cyril Ramaphosa was in South Africa, and we saw what happened, and we thought that maybe something good will come out of what has happened. But just few months later,
now
they are also suffering from the same tariffs
eligible to receive foreign assistance from the United States.
No, but again, the Millennium Challenge understand better, which means that
dispute,
even if the foreign minister didn't have that outburst, or if they did something,
the impact on Ghana's development agenda, and joining me in
we will not know that there was some outburst between him and the senator as well.
Thank you for making it to the
Trump could still have decided that, well, I am not dishing out anything at this
for viewers watching
because though we're not the same country, we're not, it's not just us, they're different countries. And if you look at it, every country and the reason that they support, for example, Burkina Faso, do you think that the reason why US will withdraw will be the same reason why the US will withdraw? What are the nuances? Which is, there's nothing you can do about it all.
No, I think there is. I mean, once again, I keep saying that Ghana is not an outlier. We are a product of circumstance. We are a product of US foreign policy.
You see a Trump administration that is really.
But I think that, look,
recalibrating
take some countries for instance. Was Colombia at the instance of the Trump administration when he wanted to use Colombia and he wanted to transport or how do you call it, send back
it's no longer playing that
illegal resident from
the president is
Colombia and US
doing things differently.
The Colombian president,
so if you look at the things that very close
it became a banter publicly. It was a huge public outcry between the two of them. But in the end, when Trump threatened to release 50% tariffs even those from Colombia coming to US, immediately the man had to rate the how he wanted to take them from. And Trump sees this kind of things as victory. He always wants to be seen as saving face and presenting this machoism, this USA personality or persona to the people. So is that something that we can do? So as much as he has a US foreign policy, those that are able to come around and negotiate with him are able to get some waivers of a sort. And that is why when he gives you the time, when he imposes the tariffs or he imposes the visa ban, he tells you that within 2 months, in the case of Ghana, we are giving, this is not as it happened concerning the visa privilege. We are giving 2 months, 60 days with opportunity to try to engage the Trump administration, saying that, look, there's a 15% threshold of visa overstays. When we are getting close to it and we are moving above it, then we are going to punish you in terms of visa issuing. So what have you done so far about these things? How have you created a database so that people that have overstayed are issued travel documents? Because in international law, and that is why the US is using third-party states. Ordinarily, if I'm Ghanaian and I overstay my visa in the US, I'm supposed to be sent back to where? Ghana. But when your passport is expired and you don't have travel document, the law does not permit the US government to bring you back to Ghana. So the Ghanaian government must be willing to do that. Trump is saying that when we get your citizens, especially those that are hardened criminal, we will send them to a third country. We won't bring them to Ghana. So countries like Rwanda, was it Eswatini? And I think one other country, which is Uganda, they are now becoming third parties. So those countries that are able to meet President Trump halfway and address the issues that are very concern or critical to the US, the Trump administration has a way of lowering things down.
That's interesting. What does it look like for us? Tell us first of all the practical implications for us as a country, and if there's a way out for us.
Well, I think that, look, regardless of how you want to look at it, there are dire implications involved. Even the USA that was $160 million short, of resources that are available to us, has certain implications. And Ghana, the current Mahama administration had to find a way, to replace that amount. But this is a huge sum of money. I hear it's almost $400 to $500 million, and it goes into what you call the Ghana Compact, the Ghana Energy Compact, which is an energy, dimension of the Millennium Challenge Compact. Huge sum of money that is going into the powering of the country.
Yes.
In terms of road construction, in terms of health. So if these monies are not coming, what it means is that there is some lacuna, there is some gap somewhere that the government must already try to tighten its coffers. Already, we know how stressful the economy is, and things are beginning to get better. So what it means is that there is a gap. There is some vacuum that the government must try to find resources. I'm hoping that there is MIDA. MIDA is it MIDA? Yes, the branch or the agency that is responsible for this development assistance. Maybe they can begin to explore elsewhere.
Elsewhere where?
Well, I'm hoping that we probably have some shocks, some backup elsewhere. Otherwise, this will be very, very...
Does this suggest that the door is shut completely?
I don't think so.
For international negotiations, and particularly for us and the U.S.?
No, I don't think so.
We cannot trigger any negotiations?
I think we can, and that is one of the means. But you see, the thing is that we must find a way to be sufficient. And I understand, and I keep saying that the Trump presidency is usually bad news for Africa, but it's also very good news. Because what it means is that we are beginning to realize that we cannot be dependent on external benevolency. At some point, true independence means taking care of yourself without having to depend on somebody for survival. And so once these shocks, these assistance we are beginning to see how vulnerable we are as a people. Going forward, we begin to find ways, to fill in these gaps so that we don't go, begging. So I think that it's practical. The practical relevance of this is how we can begin to take care of ourselves, in the years coming.
With the conversation.
Please do to like, comment, and follow. Put on notification bell so you get all our news one by one. Thanks, my people.